For as long as anyone can remember, Australia has represented something almost mythical, a distant paradise at the edge of the world. To many, it's the place where the air feels cleaner, the people seem friendlier, and life just moves at a slower, more peaceful rhythm. The kind of place you imagine escaping to when your own world starts to feel too fast, too loud, too complicated. But for anyone trying to make that dream a reality in 2025, it doesn't feel like paradise. It feels like an obstacle course. What was once an open invitation to skilled workers, students, and families searching for a better life has turned into one of the most complex, uncertain, and emotionally draining processes on the planet. The beaches are still there. The golden sunsets still stretch across the skyline, but the door that leads to them is slowly closing. Moving to Australia today is no longer about just booking a flight or finding a job. It's about proving your worth, surviving endless paperwork, and having the patience to wait through years of silence from a system that's overwhelmed and overcomplicated. And yet, despite everything, people keep trying. Because even as the dream fades behind bureaucracy, something about Australia still whispers, it's worth it. And in 2025, the visa process for Australia has become a maze without a map. The once straightforward pathways, the skilled independent visa, the partner visa, the student transition route, now twist and turn through layers of new requirements and shifting government priorities. The demand is higher than ever. Tens of thousands of people from every corner of the world, teachers, nurses, engineers, tradesmen, all submitting their documents, their money, their hopes into an online system that often feels more like a lottery than a plan. You could meet every requirement, pass every test, pay every fee, and still find yourself waiting 2, even 3 years with no real update. Some applicants have already sold their homes, quit their jobs, and said their goodbyes, only to be left suspended in uncertainty. And for students, the once promising post-study work visa that gave a clear path to residency now comes with reduced timeframes and unpredictable changes. Australia says it needs more skilled workers, but it also fears overcrowding, housing pressure, and political backlash. So the gates remain half open, never quite closed, but never fully welcoming either. For every approval email that changes a life, there are hundreds of others staring at the same sentence day after day. Processing. Pending. Please wait. Then, even if you make it through the system, another reality hits. The price of starting over in Australia has never been higher. You land in Sydney or Melbourne, jet-lagged but hopeful, and almost instantly the numbers begin to add up. Rent, groceries, transportation, everything feels shockingly expensive. The first grocery trip can feel like a wake-up call. A loaf of bread that costs $1 back home is now $4. Fuel prices fluctuate like stocks. Electricity bills eat into your savings faster than you expect. Renting is even worse. A modest one-bedroom apartment in Sydney can easily cost $700 or more per week. That's before bills, before transport, before food. And the competition for housing is fierce. Dozens of people line up for a single viewing, each one offering more than the listed price just to secure a place to live. Many newcomers, even professionals with solid jobs, find themselves forced to share rooms, move far from city centers, or cut corners wherever possible just to get by. The first few months often feel less like settling down and more like surviving a storm. You work, you budget, you sacrifice, and you tell yourself it's temporary. But the truth is, Australia's paradise now comes at a price most people underestimate. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. And then comes the issue that affects everyone, locals and newcomers alike, the housing crisis. It's not an exaggeration to say Australia is running out of places to live. In Sydney, vacancy rates have dropped to historic lows. Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, all facing the same story. Every rental listing feels like a battle. Property inspections are crowded. Agents receive offers before you've even stepped through the door. For migrants, this makes the first few months incredibly stressful. Many arrive thinking they'll find a cozy apartment within weeks, only to realize they're competing against dozens of other applicants for the same space. Some families live in short-term Airbnbs for months, watching their savings disappear. Others move from one temporary stay to another, unsure when they'll finally be able to settle. Even those with stable jobs and good references are rejected, simply because there's too much demand and not enough supply. And when you finally do find a place, the rent can take up half or even more of your monthly income. Australia's housing crisis has become a test of endurance. It's not just about having money. It's about having luck, patience, and a plan B for when everything falls through. For many new arrivals, The dream of a fresh start begins not with a house by the beach, but with nights in cheap motels, shared rooms, or endless scrolling through rental apps, wondering if they made a mistake. On paper, Australia looks strong. Unemployment is low, GDP growth is steady, and wages seem higher than in most other countries. But for everyday people, especially new arrivals, the numbers tell a different story. The cost of living has surged faster than wage growth. That high Australian salary people dream about often disappears the moment the bills come in. Groceries, fuel, healthcare, and housing consume most of the paycheck before the first weekend arrives. Even skilled migrants, doctors, nurses, engineers, often discover their qualifications aren't recognized right away. Many have to spend months, sometimes years, recertifying or taking lower-paying jobs just to stay afloat. There's a strange irony in it all. Australia desperately needs workers. Businesses are short-staffed, hospitals are struggling, and industries like construction and education are calling for help. Yet the very system designed to bring people in makes it nearly impossible for them to settle quickly. So people adapt. They work side jobs, share spaces, and find ways to stretch every dollar. They tell themselves it's worth it, that once they get permanent residency, things will get easier. And maybe they're right. Because even with the financial struggle, life in Australia still feels different. The air feels cleaner, the streets feel safer, and the chaos of the world seems just a little farther away. But behind every statistic, there's a personal story, and not all of them are happy ones. Scroll through migration forums or TikTok expat accounts, and you'll see the same emotions repeated again and again: exhaustion, uncertainty, homesickness. Couples waiting years to reunite. Families who sold everything to start fresh, now stuck in limbo waiting for a visa that never seems to come. Some wake up every day checking their email for an update. Others spend sleepless nights doing currency conversions, wondering if they'll make it another month. For every "we finally made it" post, there are dozens of quiet heartbreaks. People who gave up, who ran out of money, or who couldn't take the constant waiting anymore. And even for those who do make it, the adjustment can be isolating. The distance from home hits hard. Friends and family feel an ocean away, because they literally are. The time difference makes calls difficult, and loneliness sneaks in when you least expect it. It's the hidden side of migration that nobody warns you about. The emotional fatigue that comes not from the place itself, but from everything it took to get there. Still, there's a strange strength that builds in that struggle. People who push through it come out tougher, more patient, and more grateful for every small win. A job offer, a rental approval, a simple "welcome to Australia" from a stranger. For all the obstacles, the visas, the housing crisis, the rising costs, one truth remains: people are still trying to move to Australia. And not just trying, fighting for it. Because for millions around the world, Australia represents something rare. It's not just about wealth or status or escaping hardship. It's about the feeling that life can be calm again. That safety isn't a luxury. That you can raise your kids in a place where people still smile at strangers, where you can walk home late at night without fear, where the biggest noise outside your window might be the birds at sunrise. That's what keeps the dream alive. Even as the system tightens, even as the costs rise, even as the process stretches longer than ever, hope doesn't die. Because at the end of every long visa wait, every rejection, every sleepless night, there's still the thought that maybe, just maybe, it will all be worth it. Australia may be harder to reach than ever before, but maybe that's what makes it so special. Because some dreams aren't supposed to come easy, they're supposed to test you first. And for those who finally make it, the struggle becomes part of the story. A story they'll tell forever of how they crossed oceans, beat the odds, and found a new life under the southern sky.